Okay, I think we're about to go live.
Got it.
And we'll have to check and see.
Is it going to be your page?
Yeah. Okay, I believe we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Uncle Grumpy, and welcome to Grumpy Tonight. As you can see, I'm sitting next to my friend here, Dr. Lawrence Pasternack, and we're here to talk about the petitions and maybe see if we can start a few fights. You guys know I've been doing a lot of that lately, so I thought we'd just go with that theme and run with it. Hey, Christine, how are you? I see. Okay, we must be live. People are joining in. All right. If any of you would like to join us to talk about what we talk about, or at a point when we open it up to anything else, if you want to join us to talk about anything else, I'm going to put the Zoom link in the comments probably. I'll see if I can get it in the heading, but I'll put the Zoom link up and if you want to join, you'll be welcome to do that. So anyway, let's see. Hello, Melissa. Let's see. Yes, that's right. It wouldn't be me if I wasn't starting fights. Yeah, I know. Let's take a minute to talk about that while people are joining in. I've offended quite a few people lately. And as I said in my post, I promise I'll get to the rest of you soon. It's not that, I just like fighting. It's that I believe that our state is in real serious trouble, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get everybody to notice that and hopefully do something about it. So it's going to keep happening. All right. So Lawrence, I thought we would come on here. The original plan was I was going to come on here with Ryan Kiesel from the 820 campaign, and we were going to talk strictly about 820. Ryan has some things come up. He wasn't able to make it. We will get that done soon. I haven't talked to him yet. He called me back, but I was on the bike when he called, and I haven't called him back yet. So I'll get that rescheduled maybe for this weekend. But I wanted to go ahead and come on anyway so we could talk about the petitions. And Lawrence, you're always so good with your charts and graphs. I knew you were the person to come on here and help us to maybe understand these a little bit and compare them a little bit, and we could go over the politics of them a little bit and see where it goes. And if anybody has any questions, ask away, and we'll do what we can to answer them. I think my screen over here is frozen, so let me get it up on one of my other 10 devices. So Lawrence, say hi to everybody and all that.
Hello, everyone. I guess we have about 10 people or so at the moment. Hopefully more are going to join us.
See, mine isn't even showing that, darn it. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I've been pretty busy with lots of different things. Probably a lot of you know that I'm a professor at OSU, and about 3 years ago, I took over the religious studies program and have done a lot to grow it and improve it, and just got reappointed as the director for the next 3 years. And so that's sort of my day job. And then, of course, what I do in terms of cannabis and psilocybin advocacy and so forth is something that just has been a big concern of mine for a long time, just firmly opposed to the war on drugs, motivated very much by social justice issues, as well as the considerable medical value of a lot of these plants that, quite unfortunately have been neglected for a long time.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the petitions. At this point, there's one petition gathering signatures. Hello, Harv. How are you? Good to see you here. Please share this if you don't mind. We're about to start. We're just getting into talking about the petitions. Let's see. Oh, and you got a question, Lawrence, I think there.
Somebody just asked me which campus at OSU, the Stillwater campus, main campus.
All right. So as of this moment, 820 has already been gathering signatures. Now, those that don't know, 820 is the the state statute. It's not the constitutional amendments. I think those are about to start gathering signatures, but I'm not quite sure. Lawrence, do you know? Are they gathering yet, or for Orca, are they gathering signatures yet?
If I recall correctly, 818, which is the constitutional medical, has been cleared for signatures. And 819, I think, I don't know for sure. They're waiting on the final word, but it should be imminent. I could be wrong. But I know that Jed is in the process of printing out both of them for distribution right now.
Great. Good to hear it. Okay, so, but as of this moment, 820 has been gathering signatures for a while. The likelihood that they're going to get their signature count, which is 96,000, seems really pretty plausible. So we will probably see 820 on the ballot in November. So I think it's worth taking, taking another look at it and talking about it. And also talking about 818 and 819 in comparison, some, just the battles and things like that, the uphill battle to get signatures and all that. And let me say this, because I know some people have asked me, they asked last night. I know me and Debbie Wood were talking about it. She was asking which I thought was better. I'm not sure. That's what we're hoping to figure out here. But I do think everybody needs to take a harder look at 820, because I do feel like it is going to be on the ballot. I feel like the chance is more than 50% that we're going to be voting on 820 in November. And I'm on the fence about whether we'll be voting for 818 and 819 or not. So, all right, so let's do that. Let's compare them a little bit. Lawrence, why don't you start? And I bet you could have a graph or a chart here on something you might like to share with us.
Yeah, I do. Let me do a screen share here. Hopefully this is large enough for people to view. Let me just see how it looks on my screen. There it is. So it's a lot of information.
It's good size on my screen. Everybody screenshot while that's up if you want, and that way you can look at it later too.
Yeah, I might have it up on the OCLA website. If not, I could put it up there. And I don't have here 818. This is really just more like an apples to apples comparison with 819 to 820, and then comparing to current law. So the main difference in terms of procedure with respect to 819 versus 820 is that 819 is constitutional, and so requires close to 180,000 signatures. 820 is statutory, and so only requires around 95,000 signatures. 820 is sponsored by a national organization called New Approach. New Approach has been responsible for something in the order of 15 different legalization
petitions. Okay, hold on. Let's stop right there on that. New Approach is sponsoring 820. What does that exactly mean? Did somebody from out of state write 820? Now, I know most of the answer to these, but I believe these are questions people are going to have. So, do you know who wrote 820?
So there's a kind of base template that New Approach uses around the country. It sort of evolved over time and then gets adjusted based upon polling data and the political climate and so forth per state. There's a cannabis law professor named Tamar Todd at UC Berkeley, who has been one of the major drafters of this language. Ryan Kiesel certainly has been involved. I don't know, who added what line, but a lot of the language is sort of the organic product of input from certain circles here in Oklahoma and that national template.
Okay, I wanted everybody to hear a good explanation of that, and I will ask Ryan Kiesel that, of course, when I do get him on here. Because I hear, one of the things people saying out there is this, one set of petitions is Oklahoma people, and the other one they say is national people, out of state people. Now, in that, they also say it's so they can take over the market and things like that. Is there anything in 820 that would rig this for some particular group?
The way I see it is, I was part of the authorship of the Orca petitions, right? So, I'm very much committed to their success. I did sort of have a little bit of communication with New Approach. I basically gave them a few comments about, here's some of the worst things you guys probably want to avoid if you want to try again, when I saw on the news that they were talking about trying again. And so, what does 820 look like? My perspective basically is this. I've been calling it a toe over the line approach to legalization. The strategy, the agenda basically of New Approach is criminal justice reform. That's where their money is coming from. Their money is coming from private philanthropic organizations that work for basically changing criminals around the country. They fund cannabis, they fund petitions, including psilocybin. They fund voter restoration bills around the country for felons to allow them to vote again, and so on. And so what their aim basically is that nobody gets criminally charged, nobody gets hassled by the police, and people with past criminal convictions get them expunged. That's their goal. And as I see few things in 820 I don't like, but it's really a minimalist approach, because their goal is not a cannabis program. Their goal basically is to make sure people don't get arrested, people don't get criminally charged, people with prior convictions can get them expunged. And cannabis basically is the vehicle, right, to help people avoid criminal trouble. That's the way I see it.
Okay, so then let's take a look here at your graph and let's start to go over that. Okay, so we can shrink that down and have a further discussion about intent.
Oh, you want me to minimize this?
No, not yet. I want to go over it so that we
Okay.
can minimize it in a minute, and then we'll continue with our conversation. Sorry, I'm still trying to share this in a couple places. It's given me issues.
Okay. So want me to start talking through it as you're doing whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I zoomed up a little bit. And so right off the bat, you can see a big difference between where we are now and what 819 offers versus what 820 offers. Our current program in 819 allows for possession of 8 ounces. What New Approach does is it only allows for 1 ounce. And again, the idea is that you're just make sure that people who have some cannabis on them don't get into criminal trouble.
Hold on, but that's okay, let's make it clear. This is a recreational petition.
Yeah, this is for people who don't have cards.
This doesn't change anything for the people who have a card, correct?
Right. So
we need to make that very clear. I don't want people thinking when they see these lesser numbers, maybe that's for everybody. That's for people who don't have a card.
Right. So think about it this way: 400,000 Oklahomans have cards. Almost 4 million Oklahomans don't have cards, and people from all over the region don't have cards. And there are between 4,000 and 6,000 people every year in Oklahoma since 788 who have been criminally charged with possession. So if you don't have a card here in Oklahoma and you're carrying cannabis, you could risk criminal charges. And once again, New Approach is trying to change that. It's not about changing the medical program. It's to make sure that people who don't have cards don't get into legal trouble. That's the goal. And so people without a card will be allowed up to 1 ounce. If they have more than 1 ounce, then there's like I think it's $100 ticket if you have more than an ounce. So again, there's a window of protection to avoid criminal charges. So with us, with 788, if you have more than 8 ounces, what happens? If you have more than 8 ounces, you risk potentially, a felony charge here in Oklahoma. If you're walking around with 5 pounds of cannabis, they could still charge you with criminal possession with intent to distribute. So our window of protection as card holders is up to 8 ounces. And they're giving a window of protection for non-card holders to 1 ounce.
Well, our protection is only for 3 ounces because that's
yes,
outside
that's
the home.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
we're talking about outside the home.
That's right. 3 ounces on your person.
Right. And so in this, people who don't have a card will also be able to grow, correct?
Yeah, so that's another thing. It will allow for home grow. Same rules apply basically for us, for card holders and for non-card holders, that anybody will be able to have 6 immature plants and 6 mature plants. And likewise, whatever they grow, they're allowed to keep at home. So if you grow 10 pounds of weed out of your 6 mature plants, then just as we have in the law right now, you can possess those 10 pounds at home. So likewise, State Question 820 would do that. Hi, Matthew. See, Matthew Campbell just joined us. Hi, John Kumas.
Hey, you guys, how's it going? Yeah, I just saw that too. Appreciate you guys watching. If you don't mind, share it. Right now, we're just doing a little comparison.
Yeah. So, how do people get in trouble for cannabis? They get in trouble for cannabis for possessing it at home. They get in trouble for cannabis for sharing it. They get in trouble for cannabis for cultivating it. And 820, just like 819, allows for legal sharing. So as we know, right, the recent bill that came from the Senate, the recent bill that came from the Senate returns sharing under certain circumstances, not all, but under certain circumstances, to become a felony. If you are sharing.
Right. But because this is important, the sharing of a joint or anything under 3 grams with no consideration, meaning not exchanging for value, not selling.
So Melissa Hunter says
it no longer does that, right? That will no longer be a problem, right? That's not a felony now with that bill, correct?
Correct. So okay. Melissa Hunter says, so Oklahoma medical patients can still legally obtain up to 8 ounces. Melissa, 820 and 819 don't do anything to change the medical program with one qualification. 819 drops the taxes for the medical program to 0. But in terms of your possession rights and your grow rights and all of that, 819 and 820 don't touch them. Clifton says, you want a petition at our store, contact Jed Green, contact Orca.
Okay, contact Orca. That would be for 818 and 819. Yeah. If you want 820, I'm betting there's people to contact for that as well.
Yeah. And David Beck basically says that one of the problems with 820, which I think is a worthy concern, one of the problems with 820 is that it's only statutory, which means that our lawmakers can go after 820 and unravel it.
Right. Now, let me say this. While that is correct, we go ahead and shrink that down for a minute. While that is correct, what we have to look at is the political possibilities here. While 820 is statutory, it's what 96,000 signatures is what's required. Both of the Orca petitions require 176,000, I think it is.
Something like that, yeah.
Each. So that's a heck of a hurdle. I'm not saying it can't be done. I want the chance for everybody to see them both on the ballot in November. I think that'd be great. When I say both, I mean, for me personally, I mean 819 and 820. I'm not a huge fan of 818, and again, I think the political ability to get it passed is slim to none. So while 820 is statutory, again, they're going to get the signatures. It's going to be on the ballot. We should take a hard look at it.
But let me say this, that whether or not 818 and 819 get on the ballot, whether or not that happens is because of you in the audience, right? It's because of this community. Whether or not 818 and 819 get on the ballot is a matter of whether or not this community, whether or not we have the political will to do it. It's on us.
Well, and even then, that would get it to the ballot, but then we have to look at the political winds in the state and the possibilities of its passing. And I think that's something to have a conversation about.
Right, Clifton Hicks, it's Orca.
What's that?
I'm just answering the question, yeah.
I forgot where I was.
So let's go back to, ways in which 818 and 819 are different. And so could I share again?
Yeah, it's still up. Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. So let me just scroll down and now
Oh,
share.
yeah.
Again.
What my point was earlier was somebody had said the problem with 820 is it's statutory. But because it's statutory, because it requires so many less signatures, because it's got the backing that it does to get it done and do advertising statewide, it has it definitely has the ability to get on the ballot and get passed. And I believe the people of Oklahoma who are not in this community might be more accepting of a statutory issue or a statutory bill versus a constitutional amendment.
My hope is that we get 819 passed, but 820 is, as I see it, a nice backup. And the reason why I think that 819 is as important as it is right here, what you could see on the screen. Look at these columns right over here. Look at this column on the far right, rights and justice.
Right.
The employee protections, that is protections for everybody, that you can't get fired because of cannabis, you can't be denied a job because of cannabis. 818 and 819 have that, 820 doesn't. Custody protection, they all have that. So parental custody protection, they all have that. DUI protection, do you guys realize that right now you are violating the law if you are driving? If you have a cannabis metabolite in your system, which, as you know, could be in your system for weeks, current law is you're DUI. And that's ridiculous, right? You could not be intoxicated. You may not have smoked for weeks. But because you have the metabolites in your system, you can get a DUI. So 820 doesn't change that. 818 and 819 does.
Okay, let me address that. Because I care about those things too. Okay, I don't want anybody thinking I don't care about those things. But what I want to ask is, do we know enough people that are not card holders that are going to vote yes on those? Will there be, because it's going to take more than the 400,000 card holders. It was 537,000 or something that passed 788.
507.
507. Okay. So I believe it's going to take more than that this time.
Yeah.
And with 400,000 card holders, if all of them are willing to vote that, but I mention this because how much effort do you think is going to be put into trying to stop something from the municipal league and others that has job protections? That is a huge hurdle. It's a huge hurdle. I want it, but I'm looking at and I'm wondering where the difficulty is going to be with the non-card holders.
And that's why I think we're actually in a really great situation if they all get onto the ballot, because we have the safety net of 820, right? But we have the ambition of 819. Let me answer another question on here. There's a question from Ella Ku. What about immigration protection? That's a federal issue, right? So we're not in a position to be able to change federal law. This is just state law. And federal law would be that you could be denied immigration status based on cannabis use. That's out of our control. John Kumas is saying, but with statutory, they could eat that bill up. And right, that's a risk. So if 820 passes, our legislature can make any changes they want. My guess is this, that the basic legal protections will be there from 820. Who knows what changes they'll make? But if 820 passes, our lawmakers might make whatever changes, who knows? But I don't think they'll take away the basic legal protection that anybody will be able to, 21 and older at least, will be able to purchase an ounce of cannabis.
Okay, so, and I saw where John had said, why not, if it's just signatures, why not push 818 and 819? I'm not pushing up against them, if that's what you think, John. I'm not. What I'm trying to do is take a hard look at the politics of these petitions and their possibility, because it's going to take more than this community to get them passed. If it was just up to us, I'm all for it. But, I'm trying to be realistic about the possibility at the polls. I agree with Lawrence. I'd like to see 819 and 820 both on the ballot in November. For me, that would be the ultimate. That'd be the best. And I'm going to sign 819 if it ever comes around where I'm at and gathering signatures, or if I can find it locally. I just happened to find 820. They didn't come knocking on my door. I just happened to be at a rally where they had somebody. So, I want to sign 819. Where is it? So, but again, I say this is important. The employee protections is a huge hurdle. I'm not saying it can't be done. Didn't Arizona do something like this? Didn't
Nevada, a number of states, yeah.
Yeah, but they've done it through the legislator, haven't they?
Well, 788 did have these protections, we expanded them even in the Unity bill, but then, the Senate, ripped that apart, right? And replaced what we had with much more limited, right, protections, not including safety sensitive jobs. In Canada, for instance, you're in the military, you're police, you could use cannabis. The only rule is you just can't use it, shortly before or during your shift. It's stupid, right? It's stupid that somebody can't use it on a Friday night if they're not working until Monday. And so, we need the laws to reflect science. And we need these employee protections out of justice. But, it is the case, of course, that anti-cannabis forces have a lot more to attack in 818 and 819 than they do in 820. And that's the idea here. That's the reason why New Approach did it the way they did. Because once again, they said, let's just get accomplished what we can think reliably we can succeed in and take fewer risks. So ORCA, we have the big ambition, the grand vision of social change. New Approach is, here's what we think we can realistically accomplish, and that's what they limited to.
And I think they're right. That's what I'm saying. It's not that I don't want the ORCA petition. It's that I want as I've said from the beginning, I want as many on there as possible to choose from. And
so, yeah,
that could be 819 and 820 for me. I certainly hope that's what I'm looking at on the ballot in November.
Here's my thought. Most of the electorate aren't informed. Most of the electorate don't pay enough attention. If the Municipal League and others run ads against ORCA, and if New Approach with the money they have run ads for 820, what will the average person do? They're not going to remember one versus the other. They're either going to be for them all or against them all. My guess is very few voters will be discerning enough to say yes on this one, no on that one. My guess is that most of the voters are basically going to either be yes on them all or no on them all. And so to some extent, we ride on the coattails of the advertising dollars that New Approach puts up, and they're encumbered by the attack ads against Orca. And how it all plays out in the end, I don't know. If we can get them all on the ballot, then I think they're going to be just tied together inevitably in the minds of the voters. And they're going to, some people will be discerning, but most will basically say yes to them all or no to them all.
All right, guys, if any of you want to jump in and talk about this, I'm putting the link up in the comments right now. There you go. And you're welcome to join us. We can switch the screen where it has more chairs. We'll make room for everybody at the table.
Let me point something out as well, that when we crafted 819, we also included retroactivity so that people with past criminal convictions could get them expunged. That was part of 819, but the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, severed it. I won't go into the reasons why. I think they were, unreasonable, but the Supreme Court pulled the retroactivity section from 819. So what 820 has that 819 doesn't have is that aspect of criminal justice reform expungement. I want to say one other thing. Because 818 and 819 are constitutional, if they all pass, if 819 and 820 pass, then the provisions of 819, the Orca petitions, will supersede what's on 820 because 819 is constitutional.
Okay. Well, I am worried about what you just said about how some voters will either be for all of them or against all of them. That does concern me because I think that those that may not be for the constitutional amendment might be willing to accept the state statute. And I'm talking about non-card holders. I'm not talking about anybody in this Zoom meeting right now. I'm not talking about me or Lawrence. I'm talking about non-card holders. I'm trying to bring some perspective here, I think, that needs to be examined by this community, and that is that we don't own the state, that it won't be that easy. I'm not saying it can't be done. We got 788 done, but what I'm saying is it's certainly a huge uphill battle, and I love having the option of 820. While it's not perfect,
so
I want to stop just like you, Lawrence, I want to stop the 4,000 to 6,000 people a year that are still arrested for cannabis, the thousands of people whose probation and parole is revoked because of a dirty test, whether they have a card or not. And all that is fixed in 820.
John asks, is there a rec license fee for businesses if 820 passes? Yes, $2,500. And get this, in 819, one license is all you need for medical and rec. Just one license. For 820, you need two separate licenses, both at $2,500. So whatever happens with our lawmakers in terms of tiered licensing, if 819 or 820 pass, we go back to $2,500, at least temporarily. If 819 passes, it's in the Constitution that it's $2,500. If
that's not, let me ask, is that not one of the parts in there that is also left for the legislators to adjust if they want to?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look for sure, but I don't think so.
To point out what I'm talking about, so everybody knows I don't sound crazy. There are some parts in there, while it sets certain things, it then leaves it in control of the legislator, or it leaves it up to them if they want to change it, just like as if it was a state statute.
Yeah, to be clear, 819 and 818 allow the lawmakers to change the allocations for the revenue. So we have it set up so that from the taxes, the money goes to this activity and that activity, mental health, education, et cetera, et cetera. But the Orca petitions allow our lawmakers to go in and change those aspects, not the other aspects, but those aspects, because in time you might need more money here versus there.
Okay, but you don't think the $2,500 part is part of that they can adjust?
I'd have to go back and check. My recollection is
Okay.
no, but I'd have to go back and check.
Okay, because I know at one point you had this real complicated formula on how to basically keep it in track dollar wise with inflation, basically. I remember complicated math you had thrown in there. All right, so again, I'd love to see them both on the ballot. The constitutional amendment would be great. My goal has always been to get the home grow in the Constitution. That, I said that at the beginning. That was when the Orca petition started. That was one of the first things I said. As long as we get that part covered, I'm good with it. And so that'd be great. And I'd like that.
Yeah, Ella Chuda sent me a personal question. Let me ask that. She wondered about immigration. If you have a criminal charge for cannabis and then you can get it expunged, could that protect you from any possible potential immigration liabilities? I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't know for sure. It depends upon the exact language, right, in the immigration questionnaires. But I think that I'm hoping that it would give people that might be in that situation, that you're going for a green card or citizenship or whatever, and you have a cannabis charge, if you can get it expunged at the state level, I'm hoping that it will carry over to that kind of immigration protection.
Okay. And let me ask you this. I'm sure you probably have all the facts right there in your head. How long before these take effect if either one of them was to pass, be it 819, 820, the state statute, constitutional amendment? What was the enactment time there on those?
I'd have to go back and look to be sure. 90 days, maybe. I just don't remember for sure.
Okay. All right. I mean, I ask because I think that's important. I think, part of the goal to saving all these small shops is to get one of these passed as quick as possible and enacted as quick as possible so that every car that drives down the street can be a customer instead of just those that are willing to go through the trouble of getting the card.
Shelley McMillan says that 820 kills 420, and I just don't see it because there's 820. Basically, all that it does is it gives legal access to everybody 21 or older to purchase and possess up to an ounce of cannabis and grow at home. So it's like it just expands access. I don't see how it's hurting. It's the movement. It's giving access to everybody and giving legal protection to everybody. I just don't see where it's harming, the movement towards giving people safe legal access to cannabis.
Who was that? Because I'm not seeing that comment for some reason.
Shelley McMullen?
Okay. Okay, Shelley. All right. Shelley, please explain how 820, because you and I have had this conversation before, and I think we pretty much determined why you hate 820, and it didn't have anything to do with the words on 820. So can you tell us how this kills people getting access? This increases access. And again, it doesn't change the medical program. It's the same clusterfuck it is now. It's not going to change any.
Let me add also that current law is that if you are consuming cannabis in a place where it's illegal for you to do so, like you're in a public place where it's not legal, currently it's $100 fine, and 820 brings it down to a $25 fine. So, that actually has a carryover for medical patients too, in that if you're a medical patient and it's illegal right now for you to say, smoke a joint inside a supermarket, you'd be fined $100. By current law now, 820 would bring it down to $25. So it's like, I just don't see where the harm is in 820. Like, one thing will probably happen, there'll be fewer cardholders. If 819 passes or if 820 passes, there'll be fewer cardholders because people who only want 1 ounce, they very possibly won't get a card. People who are much heavier users will get a card.
Okay, but let me state that less cards does not mean it's destroyed the medical program. It means that the medical program doesn't fit everybody. And maybe when we get rec in here, then it could get narrowed down a little bit to people it fits better. Look, I'd like to know how it kills it, really, because this is a problem I see. This is what I keep starting fights with people about in this community, is this knee-jerk reaction, these bumper sticker comments with no.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
John, no, there is no cap on milligram counts in 820. No, there isn't.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, it won't be like other states where a rec user can only buy 100 milligram. And to that, let me say that again, it doesn't change the medical program. So you'll still be able to sell the same 3,000 milligram bars to the patients.
And you'll be able to sell it to anybody.
Yeah, to anybody.
My guess is that
Go ahead.
we will be expanding the customer base for cannabis by 5 to 10 million people if either 819 or 820 passes. That there'll be, for better or worse, people might have objections to this, but for better or worse, millions of people from North Texas, from Arkansas, from Kansas will be coming here. Missouri is probably going to go full access, by the way, this year too.
Well, look, we've been saying since we first got killed for showing the last new approach petition that the state has a time frame on benefiting from being a national hub for cannabis. And we can be the next, Oklahoma City can be the next Denver in the sense that it can be a cannabis destination. And all those people coming up from Dallas will come up for the weekend and eat in our restaurants and buy gas and motels and other things like that. It can really make a huge difference. But if we keep dragging our feet and Missouri goes rec and Arkansas corrects their problems and Kansas maybe finally gets around to doing something, but they do it overnight, then, and then Texas, who's already got a program, they just have to expand it. It's not a good one, but it's there. So, we're limited on our time, and I want to see these businesses benefit from being a travel destination. I want people to come to Oklahoma for the lakes and hunting or whatever the hell you do here, and be able to pick some stuff up for the weekend. And yeah, they can do that now if they go through all kinds of hurdles and pay big fees or just be illegal and risk jail, still continue to risk jail. Okay,
so Shelley is saying that 820 kills 420 because they didn't take any input. I agree. I completely agree with Shelley that there should have been more community input. I absolutely agree. But that doesn't mean it's going to kill 420. What it does do.
No, it doesn't mean anything except she's mad because she didn't get to have a say.
But wait a second. There is an issue, and this is something that I think overlooked with 806 and 807. That sense of people like Shelley who gave out sweat and blood to get 788 passed. The people who were on the ground gathering signatures, who devoted weeks, months, years to the passage of 788, feel that the right way to do it is grassroots, and that there's something of a bigger political picture at stake there. And I think that's a fair concern, that 818 and 819 showed the respect to the community and was committed to the grassroots political process, and not simply just a group of expert attorneys who drafted. And ideologically, there is that feeling that the ordinary person is not given political say. 788 was a way in which the ordinary person got some political say. 818 and 819 likewise. And so I do think that it would have been appropriate for 820 to have gone through a public process.
Okay, so I understand that. They didn't. Here we are. So now at this point, if we're not talking about what's in the petition, then it's sour grapes and it's doing nobody any good. And the 788 OGs quit. People like Shelley said, not only I'll never do it again, but they said they do everything they could to destroy this industry. She said it many times. She's reposted her video saying it. So, yeah, it would have been great if they would have listened to us. And yeah, you and I had conversations with some of them. We know they were ignoring us. We know they didn't want to go through the public, and we knew that would be a problem. But that's done. Here we are. What can get passed in November?
Clifton, yeah, I have a similar perspective that 820 will pay for the ads and 819 may very well ride on those coattails. You know, I'm involved in all of this. I'm involved in the Orca petitions, and I'm not against 820, and I help with the psilocybin legislation this year and so on. You know, I'm not involved in the business, and I'm, you know, not really a cannabis user. I don't like the effects of THC on me. I'm in it because I think that we have to win back our rights to our own bodies. I think that the government has basically taken those away from us. They've taken those away from us through lots of means, including drug laws, and it's unjust. And we have to restore the rights that we have to our own bodies, to our own futures. And so one way or another, be it through 818 and 819 and 820, they're all just little steps along a much bigger war, right? We have the great war to overcome here, the great war against tyranny. And these are just small battles along the way.
I'm going to ponder for a minute. I understand some people think I'm somehow not supporting the Orca petitions. And Shelley and I have had this conversation many times, and she's made it very clear multiple times where her priorities are. And so and that I'll use that to extend this to a bigger political issue. This community doesn't even vote in its own best interest. I mean, maybe we can get enough people to vote for one of these petitions, and maybe we can get that passed. We got everybody helped get 788 passed. Maybe we can all come together and get one of these passed. But while we're doing that, as you said, the Great War, our state is becoming more and more tyrannical, and it just seems too many people, as long as they get their joint, are going to be content with whatever else happens. And we have to think more than I'm mad at them because they didn't listen to our advice, because there's a bigger picture here. I spent some time arguing with some people yesterday about who they were going to vote for governor. And they didn't know, but they sure hate Stitt. That's all they know. So I said, well, what do you think about Connie Johnson? Because they were at an event of hers not long ago. And they said, she's a great lady, like her, but don't think she has a chance. So they're probably going to vote for the Libertarian. And they didn't even know that lady's name. And I tried to explain to them that if we can't all come together on that, none of this other shit's going to matter anyway. Because if you guys aren't seeing what Stitt is doing and what this far right government here in Oklahoma is doing, it's going to take more than recreational weed to get us by. I mean, we're really voting against our own best interest so often. I tried to get those people I was with yesterday, and we wrestled around with it for about a half an hour. I tried to get them to say that they could vote, that we all need to get together and vote for the lesser of two evils. And I was trying to explain that that's where we're at. It's the lesser of two evils. This community seems so afraid of, or this state seems so afraid of the devil we don't know, that we're going to keep the devil that's taking away our rights daily and looking for other ways to do it. So anyway, that's my rant for right now. And again, if anybody wants to join us, you're welcome to. So the link is in there. I'll put it in there again.
It's not just our rights. It's not just my rights. It's the rights of other people, right? That should matter as well. You know, I'm obviously not a woman, right? My rights, reproductive rights, are not being taken away, but women's rights, reproductive rights, are being taken away. And you know, I'm terribly worried about the momentum. And as I see it, an ongoing one-upsmanship among the conservative right to show how conservative they are and where that's going to lead this country.
Let's talk about that, because I got into a conversation with Sarah on here earlier, and when I implied that they were going to try and regulate birth control next, and she just basically laughed, said I was wrong, and she talks to politicians too, and you know, they're not going to come after our birth control. But you just said it. They're playing the one-upsmanship. Now it's Nathan Dahm of Broken Arrow, for those of you that live in Broken Arrow, who puts forward all these extreme abortion bills. And the reason he's doing it is to one-up Mark Wayne Mullen and a few others, because he wants Inhofe's seat. So this has to do with him trying to get to Washington, where he can, as he has stated, help promote a national ban on abortion from Washington.
And I've seen a number of conservative lawmakers around the country in the last couple of weeks announce that they want to make the use of contraceptives outside of wedlock illegal.
Now that's what I was talking about with that's what I mean by with the one-upsmanship that you were mentioning. You know, that reinforces what I was saying yesterday, that they will come after birth control and IUD and everything else. What's that?
Let me just mention to Ella, you know, Ella, I'm actually an immigrant as well. It may not be obvious, I'm Canadian, but you know, I moved to the United States in 1990 and I became a US citizen. Honestly, I don't remember the exact year, but somewhere around 2004 or so. So, you know, I went through that long, arduous process of temporary visas, H-1B visas, green card, and then citizenship. And along the way, there were questions about cannabis use, right? You know, have you ever used illicit drugs, including cannabis, etc.? And we already know, right? We also know that by federal law, it's illegal for anybody who possesses or uses cannabis to have a gun. You know, state law, it's legal, but you know, where the hell is the NRA? Right? What is the NRA supposed to be doing? Are they supposed to be just basically lobbying for gun manufacturers? Or are they supposed to be a lobbyist for our rights? And what is the biggest impediment? What is the biggest problem that gun owners right now face around this country? 100 million cannabis users cannot legally own guns by federal law. And the NRA doesn't say a thing, doesn't lift a finger. You know, that's astounding. And it just telegraphs to us that the NRA is not there for the people.
Let me bring something up here, because this is where I ran with the people I was talking with yesterday. Deb Holden. Deb, hi, how are you? Good to see you. She says on here, if we can pass 788, we can elect Connie Johnson if we can get her through the primaries. Okay, great. So let me ask you this then. If Connie doesn't win the primary, are you willing to vote for the other Democrat that might win, which I think in this case will be Hofmeister, right? So if Connie doesn't win, are you then willing to vote for the Democrat, regardless of who it is, just to help derail the train wreck we're headed towards, in my opinion? Because that's where we're at. We're divided too many ways that it does no good.
Let me add.
Go ahead.
I spoke at Connie Johnson's rally 2 days ago.
Mhm.
So 2 days ago on Tuesday night, I was one of the speakers at her rally. And it was a pretty large venue. It could have held 500 people, more maybe. It had 50.
And how many of them were there to perform or speak?
Well, a handful. But, the point is that, it is the case that if we as a community work together, we potentially could get, Connie the primary and get her elected. But we're not working together. We're not working on it. Aside from a very, very, very small number of people, right? A couple dozen people, the people watching right now, this community has not been politically active.
Well, I tell you, I've been kind of hard on them because I feel like the only thing they're going to be politically active about is their weed. And I really am starting to feel that. And that's disturbing. And I've seen that over the last few years, that, in my opinion, has been, I mean, the only reason everybody's finally ready to get up and rally behind a petition is because things have finally gotten so bad. It got so bad in the industry that some people in the industry decided to start to put together a petition. Poof, we have Orca. Okay, great. But people were already getting arrested. Things were already bad for a lot of reasons. And nobody gave a damn. They wanted to get mad about whatever they want to get mad about. That usually isn't useful for anybody. So I have a very negative attitude right now towards this community, and for a lot of reasons. But I do think we can pull it together. I do think we can make a change. I mean, I don't know. Too many on here don't think anything's wrong. What's this
Or
about?
they throw up their hands and they say it's too late. There's nothing. It's hopeless.
One of the people in yesterday's conversation, when I started talking about where I think the state is headed, and I laid a bunch of stuff out, their response was to tell me how worldwide these other grand things were happening. And I had so much trouble getting them to even speak about Oklahoma, because they wanted to talk about things that didn't even affect our lives per se. Okay. And they do in the big picture, I'm sure, but where what's going on in Oklahoma is affecting our day-to-day lives, so we can daily do something about it. And it was in my opinion, it was some pretty terrible stuff that they think is going to happen. And lots of people think that, how the country is going to end and China's going to take over and A, B, and C is going to happen and it's all going to be over. And I'm trying to get people to center that and only talk about Oklahoma, because this is where it's going to start, I believe. If all that other shit happens, for all that to happen, it's got to fall apart here first. And that was the one thing I was able to get them to recognize, and then start to see and start to bring it home for them, and then to start to understand that if we could save Oklahoma, maybe we prolong, maybe we stop all that or put it off for a while, all that other terrible world-ending shit that might happen. And it goes back to the Hoffmeister thing. How many people are going to be willing to vote for whatever Democrat they put up? And are all the Republicans in this community going to vote for Stitt anyway? Because if so, then, you know, not only am I disgusted with the community, but I'm done. I mean, if we're going to continue to beat our heads against the wall, I got other things to do. I mean, we've got to figure something out. And the lack of participation in the Oklahoma voter is why we have the problems we have. And none of the problems that we've talked about or that I've been talking about all week have to do with Joe Biden being president. It has nothing to do with the national Democrats. But half of the people on here, for everything I point out that they agree that needs to be fixed in the state, when I try and get them to acknowledge maybe you got to vote for somebody other than Republican, then they throw Biden at me. It's like we can't distinguish the difference here, guys. It's all politics is local. And so if we could fix our local politics, the rest of it wouldn't matter. All right, that's my rant. Your turn.
What do the National Democrats want? As I see it, they want to make America like Canada.
Yeah, I don't
You may
even
not like the individuals. You may not like, there's some Democrats I hate. There's some Republicans I hate. There's some Democrats I like. There's some Republicans I like. But overall, if their bills got passed, like Canada has cannabis legalized through the whole country. Canada had medical cannabis more than 20 years ago and has full access around the country. It's like if the Democrats got what they wanted, I think the end result would basically be a country like Canada. I'm Canadian, so I'm kind of biased, right?
Yes. Tell everybody your tagline if you ever run for office.
Make Oklahoma like Canada, but with guns.
Yes, because you do like guns.
I like guns. They're cool toys. You can accessorize them. You can put them on stands. You can show them to your friends. You can trade things. It's like, it's cool. Guns are fun. Unless
Okay.
you kill people with them. Then
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. All right. So what's everybody saying on here? I got to look on this other screen to read them. Okay, Melissa, you say you're an independent, and you won't vote for Stitt. And yeah, I got to tell you, did you guys have you seen the way he's picked the fights with the tribes? I mean, he's been doing that from day one, but it's getting worse. He's now said if the tribes try and set up what he calls abortion safe havens, okay, if they try and have women's health clinics, then Stitt says they will make themselves available to local law enforcement, meaning he will send Oklahoma troopers to shut down the clinics.
How could they? It's like, they don't have jurisdiction.
So, and we'll talk this through. And I posted a TikTok that I ran across this lady who laid all this out pretty well. So Stitt sends the highway patrol, the state police, okay, to shut down the clinics. The tribes who are in relation with the federal government then reach out to the federal government to send help. The federal government would send the National Guard, the Oklahoma National Guard. The Oklahoma National Guard is paid for by federal money, but Stitt is in charge of them, so he can't send them. So he has to send the regular army. And those that say he can't because of this Posse Kuma Thomas thing or whatever, it's been suspended before. It was suspended for the Arkansas 9 for those kids to help get them in school. That was the 101st Airborne set up at an Arkansas school. Little Rock. Yeah. So it can be done. So as I said, if Stitt tries to, if the tribes try and do anything as far as continuing with women's health as they should, Stitt has made it clear publicly that he will shut him down. If he tries to do that, the tribes reach out to the feds. Then it's a fight between the feds. There's your spark. You now have U.S. military and Oklahoma National Guard pointing guns at each other.
I don't know the laws on this, but the federal government does have the power to federalize the National Guard. I just don't know the laws on it, where they could basically override the governor's control.
Unless they've fixed that since the Arkansas thing, then no. Because that's why they sent in the 101st Airborne, because the governor refused to allow the National Guard. So there's your Civil War. Yeah, you're right, David. You are right. And look, you guys need to watch that interview with Stitt, where when the Fox reporter, Fox News, national Fox News that he was on, when she says, when he talks about how we're going to be the most pro-life state and how happy he was to sign that bill, she says, well, what about the polls that say that the majority of Oklahomans, over 50%, want Roe v. Wade to stay intact? His response was, I think the word was different truths or different facts. So it's that facts don't matter anymore. Whatever I say is the fact. It doesn't matter if it's true. So, Stitt is really, he's a true believer, in my opinion. He really wants a theocracy, or the closest he can get to that. And he will be happy to sign bills that undo same-sex marriage, that undo any LGBT rights we might have here, if we have any. He will be happy to do that because his Bible tells him so. And he will rule with the Bible in one hand.
So what does the Bible say about abortion?
Well, that's a good one. Let's have that conversation. I know you've told me already, but let's hear it, Lawrence. And by the way, I actually watched a video today with a Jewish pastor, a rabbi, I guess, a Catholic pastor, and one other, I think it was a Muslim pastor or something. Anyway, it almost set up like a funny joke, because they actually did go into a bar. It was Samantha Bee. I'm sure everybody knows the YouTube videos, but she was asking them about this issue, and they said what you're about to say, basically, that not only does it not say anything against it, in some cases there's instruction, I guess, or I don't know, you tell me.
Long story short, God commands that a child born through infidelity be aborted. Book of Numbers, chapter 5, verses 11 through 31. God commands, if a husband suspects that his wife is pregnant by another man, he shall take his wife to the priest of the tabernacle, who shall give her a potion. If the child is from, or if the fetus is from another man, then it will induce an abortion. Now, you can quibble and debate over the details, but that's the established long-standing meaning of it.
Okay, and I brought up one question to this the other day, and you had a good comeback on it. So I'd like everybody to hear that, if you could do it again, where I said, well, what about those that tell me that the New Testament changes all that?
Well, people believe in the story of creation. That's in Genesis, Adam and Eve and all that. That's in Genesis. People talk about the 10 Commandments, right? That's, in Exodus. These are Old Testament books, right? That people might say that there's some ways, right? You have the new covenant, and there's some ways in which the New Testament supersedes the old, but it doesn't mean that it supersedes it in every light. And the New Testament doesn't say anything about the wrongness of abortion, but the Old Testament requires abortion in the case of infidelity. So if you believe, in the story of Genesis, and if you believe in the Ten Commandments, if you believe in the prophecies of Isaiah and so on and so forth, you're endorsing the veracity, the truthfulness of the Old Testament. And this is not just, a tradition or whatever, in the sense that it's not just a story being told. The language in the book of Numbers is that this is God ordering it. So if you believe in the Bible, then you presumably believe that their God ordered abortions in the case of infidelity.
I think that perhaps too many people in this country have a misunderstanding of their own Bible.
Melissa, yes, it's Numbers chapter 5, verses 11 through 31. It's often referred to as the trial or the ordeal of the bitter waters.
Steve, why drag up a 2,000-year-old fairy tale? Well, not because we're here to say we support or defend either way, but because our state is being run by religious zealots who are using that book to set more than just your normal moral standards here.
And let me say that, like I said, people could debate and quibble over issues of translation. There's a euphemism that's used that's translated into, she miscarries or she has an abortion. People could debate all this, but I could cite other biblical passages as well that track with this point. And so, the commitment to banning abortion, as I see it, isn't being driven from a biblical literalist interpretation. It's coming out of a looser picture of what they think God wants for the world, which has to do with chastity, right? I think that that's what's driving the prohibition on abortion.
Really? You think it's all just to punish them for having sex?
I think the idea is that the Christian conservatives think that the liberal side allow for too much personal freedom and so on, and that the conservatives think that God has a vision for humanity, which includes basically when you're of marrying age, you get married and you have kids and you work hard, and then they have kids and so on, that there's a certain model for life that they think that our society has fallen away from. And so they want to ban abortion. They want to ban extramarital sex. They want to ban contraceptives, because what they want to do is they want to take away from people self-indulgence. They want to take away from people, right, freedom just to be however you want to be. And they want to direct people in a certain path of life that they believe is what God willed for them. That's, I think, what's really at issue. Abortion is just a piece of a bigger picture. That's the way I interpret it.
I know we're getting far off topic from the petitions. I want everybody to know that's on purpose. There's so much other stuff we need to talk about, in my opinion. And this is just the start. I've been thinking about putting together something for this weekend. I know a couple different people. Nathan Davis, somebody who I disagree vehemently with here about this issue on Facebook. We're friends. I want to get him on and argue this a little bit. And Troy Bishop has some interesting things he'd like to add. And so I want to get us all in this bigger room and have a broader religious discussion.
Yeah, we have digressed, of course. But going back to the idea that there's this great war and cannabis is part of it. And the great war is between government control over our bodies. And I'd say, you know, there's arguments for virtue and morals that you could say speak to how a person should live. But there's a difference between that and giving the government control over it. And my worry is that we do not want to legislate these things. We want maybe to train people into, right, being self-reserved and controlling their appetites. That's all good stuff. But to criminalize it, to turn it into the power of the government over us, that's terrifying. And so, you know, the aspirations that, as I see it, are to increase the morality of people, but also to reduce the role of government in that regard.
I want to address, Damon wants to know why we're bothering talking about religion. It should be avoided. I agree. What I keep telling people at the Capitol, Raymond, is Jesus didn't go to Rome, get him out of this damn building. That's the reason why we have to talk about it, because it's running that building. And again, I've had some disagreements on here with what I have predicted is coming, but you know, I've been told they will come after birth control next year. So why are we talking about all this when we're supposed to be talking about cannabis? Because there's so much more going on than just our damn weed. As Lawrence has said, it's about freedom at this point. And if we're too distracted with our joint, we're going to lose everything. I think they're all tied together. And I think our state is being, what we're hearing all about the crazy stuff going on in Georgia in the news all day with or Georgia and other places like that, where they're pushing these bills, these extreme bills. And then we find out, you know, within a day or two, they do it here too. So if they're pushing coming after birth control there, they will push coming after birth control here. And again, they will, your cannabis program won't mean shit to them. At that point, I don't know. I think we're in a world of hurt.
Yeah,
I think it's our own doing.
Putting this back into the context of 818, 819, and 820, the idea for all of them, right? All of them is to increase our liberty, right? In varying ways, to varying degrees, and we could debate over the details, but one way or another, 818, 819, and 820 are all on the march towards more personal liberty, less control of the government over our lives, removing the government from criminalizing what we do to our own body. 818, 819, 820 are all about that. And that's the big fight.
And in that thinking, we should all support all of them getting on the ballot. And by God, let's try and get 819 passed. But if it can't get there, let's get 820 passed. Let's stop arresting people. All right, you want to wrap this up? We've been going for a while.
Sure. I'm looking forward to watching tonight's Star Trek.
What's that?
I'm looking forward to watching tonight's Star Trek.
I'm actually watching. We're watching the last of Ozark, and we have like less. If you took off the credits, we probably have less than 10 minutes in the last episode. So don't tell me what's going to happen. And no, I'm not reading any more notes. So if any of you guys try and tell me I'm not reading any more notes, I'm stopping this video. I'm shutting this down, and then I'm going to go watch it, and then I'll get back to this. So anyway, and again, I say we do this again this weekend. Doesn't have to be about 819, 820. Let's talk about religion. Let's compare the religions and how they're affecting our daily lives. Not something I ever thought I'd want to spend any time doing, but when I see what's going on in the state, we better get damn well. We all better get well versed in the Oklahoma Christian religion, because it could be ruling in a town near you. All right. Anything else, Lawrence?
That's it. And reach out to Jed Green, reach out to Orca. Whether or not these things get on the ballot is up to you.
I completely agree. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate all of you watching. We will do it again this weekend if I don't alienate everybody between now and then. I try and keep it to a few people a day, but we'll see. If you guys want to join us in the next one, just tell me what it is you want to talk about, and there you go. We'll do it. Again, I would like to have a round table about religion and hear how it affects you guys in your life outside of your house, because that's when it's affecting others too, and that's my concern. And see, let me show everybody here. We can just get a different room like this where we have a chair for everybody. So, there's room for all thinkers here. All right, let me change that back. All right, Lawrence, that's it. Okay, everybody. Until next time, stay grumpy. I'll see you on the road.
Bye.